When most people crack open a Bible, they brace for an intimidating anthology. We tend to read it as a collection of standalone moral fables: David and his slingshot, Noah and his boat, Jonah and the whale. Historically, this makes sense. The text was written over thousands of years, across multiple continents, by dozens of authors in disparate languages. On the surface, it appears as a disjointed patchwork. But if you look closely, specific anomalies start to appear. Repeating details from ancient texts emerge in different eras, sometimes centuries later. Thousands of years separate events on the left from the right, yet connections bridge the gap. Why an obsession with a crown of thorns, or an exact date for execution? These aren't coincidences. The Bible is a hyperlinked text, an encoded blueprint fulfilled centuries later. To truly understand this book, we have to look past the historical accounts. It is a unified architectural masterwork with a singular rescue plan embedded in its first pages. In Genesis, humanity's rebellion in the Garden of Eden creates the stain of sin, a fracture that severs their relationship with God. That fracture introduces a specific physical and spiritual curse. The earth itself is now cursed, destined to produce sharp thorns and thistles. Fast forward thousands of years to the New Testament execution narrative. Roman soldiers mock a condemned man named Jesus by twisting branches together and pressing a crown of thorns into his head. At this moment, Jesus wears the physical symbol of humanity's original Genesis curse. By taking those thorns, Jesus demonstrates that he has arrived to absorb and ultimately defeat that ancient fracture. We see this same architectural linking with the Old Testament Passover. To save the Israelites from death in Egypt, God provided a proxy, a substitute to take their place. That proxy came with strict, unyielding requirements. It had to be a perfect, unblemished lamb, and it had to be sacrificed on a specific date on the Jewish calendar, the 14th day of the month of Nisan. Centuries later, we arrive at the execution of Jesus outside Jerusalem. Tracking Nisan 14 alongside the time of day, on the left, ancient Passover lamb sacrifices, on the right, the crucifixion. They align perfectly, down to the hour. Jesus is the mathematical fulfillment, the ultimate Passover lamb, arriving exactly on schedule. This alignment reveals a calculated blueprint beneath the historical record. These precise connections reverse entire human tragedies. In the Old Testament story of the Tower of Babel, humanity unifies in prideful rebellion. The systemic consequence is immediate. God confuses air languages, creating a barrier that scatters humanity across the earth. This flowchart contrasts Babel with its New Testament counterpart. At Babel, outward, scattering arrows. But on the right, at Pentecost, the disciples suddenly speak in unknown languages. The arrows shift. Babel used language to divide. Pentecost uses language to unite people under one message. The New Testament operates as a systemic cure, methodically unpacking and reversing humanity's oldest tragedies. This is the relationship between the two halves of the Bible. The Old Testament is the setup, the shadow of things to come. The New Testament is the payoff, the reality. Together, they trace a single theme: reconciliation. It is the process of God fixing a broken relationship with humanity. The biblical timeline starts with humanity's fall, leading to their exile from the Garden of Eden and the loss of the Tree of Life. Now jump to the very end of the timeline, to the book of Revelation, to examine its final vision for humanity's future. This graphic maps the arc of the text. We move from the broken garden of Genesis to the restored garden city of Revelation. A visual line directly connects the Tree of Life lost on the left to the Tree of Life restored on the right. The ending was written into its beginning. It is a story of total restoration, closing the loop so the original curse is broken. Recognizing this hidden architecture reframes the biblical narrative as an open invitation to a perfectly restored world.